Hello and welcome. I got two things I want to talk about. One is this comic, and two is kind of building off of the comic. So I first saw this comic a couple weeks ago, and here on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, you can see the creator's name right here. You can go check him out if you want. There's the URL up there. You can squint and see it and type it in if you that kind of weirdo. I don't know why you would do that, but it hit kind of hard. You know, it's a comic about, well, you can see the title of it, man. I'm probably going to get in trouble with YouTube if I read this, but the title of it is The Year My Son Got Cancer. It was written in collaboration with the Children's Cancer Foundation, and it's a pretty rough experience. It's pretty emotional. I was going to use the word like, but I appreciate that it treats children like how children are. It's right here in this first panel, the first page of the comic. Because that's how little kids are. That's one thing that something is killing the children. Oh man, I'm really in trouble with YouTube after that one. Gets right is children react to stress very differently from adults. They don't understand it. As an example, there was a story that was told on a radio station here about a little boy, and I think he just had to give blood to his sister. Well, the little boy, he's like 8 or 7 or 6 or something like that, and his sister's like 4. A couple years difference between them. And as they're putting him to sleep, or I think they had, it might have been bone marrow, but anyway, he had to donate something for his sister so she would live. And as they're like getting ready to do it, he thinks he's going to die. Like he just straight up thinks that's the end of his existence. But he gets to save his sister's life, and he is cool with it. No hesitation. That's how little kids are, man. At least when they're in distress. Little kids are also screaming monsters sometimes, but you know what? We all went through that phase. Like, you gotta have some empathy, right? So this little kid just learned absolutely terrible news from his mother. And that's his reaction, is just, well, at least I lived 9 years. And you can see how the story starts. Something's wrong, something weird is wrong. So you start doing some tests. The next thing you know, boom, you get an absolutely terrible diagnosis. And I hope this never happens to any of you. I really do. And then this is where the comic, like, just kind of gets into super heavy stuff. Like, what do you do as parents? What do? You just got some of the worst news possible. You know? How do you live your life? How do you play? How do you teach? How do you do all these things that you would normally just take for granted as part of everyday life? Everything is now much more difficult. You got lots of trips you got to make. You get to watch somebody suffering that you love, that you can't help yourself. It's some pretty heavy stuff. And as I was thinking about this, because like I think I said at the beginning of this video, like I saw this comic a couple weeks ago, and I thought about it a couple of times in the intervening time period. And one, that's pretty striking, but two, finding comics, finding stories, finding this kind of stuff on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, the webcomic sites, like all that kind of stuff. I feel like that has replaced the old experience of reading comics in newspapers. I think newspapers still have funny pages. I haven't bought a newspaper in so long, I don't actually know. But I imagine they still have some funny pages and they still have some comics because the syndicates, like the King Syndicate, still exists. But what kind of reach is that? This comic book, or this little comic, like this first page here, 12 million impressions. The second set of pages, 605,000, 597,000, 576,000. 500,000 people have looked at this comic. That's a lot of people. Maybe this comic has done some good. Maybe it's helped people, you know? Maybe this has helped some people deal with their stress, deal with the stuff that's going on. But this isn't just like for heavy stuff. There's lots of funny comics out there, some action comics. I know I used to read webcomics a lot more than I do now. I only read like one, Outsider, which updates like once a year, so it's a real light read for me. But I really feel like the webcomic has replaced the newspaper comic as that relatively cheap thing. You know, the buy-in is negligible. You just pick it up and you look, right? Or you click on a website and you look, right? And you can deliver great emotions to people. You can deliver very powerful feelings. You can deliver joy. You can deliver excitement, adventure, all that. And it's all just right over here. So, yeah, these are the thoughts I have kind of late at night. I don't know where this was going, but I just had to share this with you guys, this little comic here, because like it just kept cropping up on the edges of my thinking over the last few days. And it's like, I got to tell people about this because I think, you know, and I'm like a decade late on this, I'm sure, but like I think that this really is something. You know, I was looking at like my comic book collection, like my physical books here, and I'm just kind of like, why do I have these? A lot of this stuff I'm never going to read again. Like I'll read it one time, I'll look at it one time. Why do I actually still own the physical copies? I'm never going to read them again. Some of it I will, and some of it has sentimental value, but a lot of it is just like stuff. I could have just read them online, and I probably would have got like 95% of the same experience. So, anyway, two completely contradictory, different thoughts crammed into one ramble here. But 1 in the morning, this is what happens, man. You all take care of yourselves, and maybe you want to check this out because this is a really good piece of work here, and I think it deserves to be read. Bye bye.